Now what we need to do is go ahead and style these text fields and the text within them. Alright, now this is actually, I would say, probably the trickiest component to style in Material UI, because it's got this hover style and then this little animation, the color change on focus. So it actually is a little harder to style than most other components or to customize. So this is something you're just going to have to remember and use this same style or class to customize the style in your own projects. Alright, so the way that we will add our own custom color, instead of having the black color here on hover, and then it's actually using the primary color on focus, so that's why it goes away. It actually doesn't disappear, it's just the same color as this background. So to change those colors, let's go ahead, and what I do, this is a easy trick, is I use the @global style in our style object. Alright, and this allows us to customize direct CSS classes instead of setting our own class names here. So if I go ahead and I inspect the element here on these fields, we can go ahead and see some of them right here. See, this is the .mui input base. Let's see here, .mui input -- before. So these are the different parts of this style that we're going to be overriding, but essentially this is where they're coming from, but it's easier to just remember this style and use it over and over throughout your projects when you need to customize text fields. So what we'll do is we'll specify the .mui input _ before, comma, so it'll also apply to .mui input _ hover not .mui, so not parentheses .mui disabled, so this won't apply if it is disabled, after the parenthesis before, and then go ahead and open that up. Okay, so this is something that you should just remember or copy and paste throughout your projects whenever you need to customize this style, because it's kind of hard to find on your own. Alright, but this is probably the only component where I've had this trouble. It's just because it's a little more complex with the functionality. So here we can set border bottom, and let's set it to 2px solid and then white. So if I go ahead, save that, flip back on over, check that out. We now have specified the white color here, and on hover we're no longer getting our other crazy different color, or the black color, and when we click on it, now we still need to just set the color for that. Alright, so we can change that color if we go ahead and specify the .mui input _ after, and then open this up. And this is going to be the border bottom as well, but use backticks this time, so we can set it to 2 pixels solid, and then inject with $ braces the theme.palette.secondary.main. Alright, so now after we focus on the input, it is going to use our darker color. So if we save that, now we go ahead and click on this field, check that out. Now it uses our dark color, and we have a really nice effect here. But remember, for our message field from the design file, we don't just want it to be a line. I actually want the message field to have a border all the way around it. Alright, so we can do that if we go ahead and specify the .mui input -multi-line, and then we go ahead and set the border bottom, or just border rather, because we want it to go around the entire thing, so just border to 2px solid and white. So if we save that and flip back, now we've got a border all the way around it, but a few things to address. The first is we've got sharp corners when I want curved corners for this, so let's give it a border radius of 10. Save that. Now we've got some nicely curved corners, but if we click on this, you can see that there's actually still an extra underline here. And so that's definitely not what we want. So we can get rid of that if we go down to the actual text field where we're setting the multi-line prop, and we can give it the input props prop, and we'll go ahead and pass down the prop disable underline true. All right, so that's going to pass the disable underline prop down to the input component that's making up our text field and get rid of that extra border for the multi-line. So if we go ahead and save that, flip back on over, see that that went away. And if we click on it, now we're not getting that effect. So now we can finish this up or get close to it. First thing is if we type in here, we're still getting black colored text. I mean, I'm gonna want white text actually. And I don't really care for how here in the message field, it's squished right up against the edge of that. I'm never a fan of that. So let's go ahead and give our message field some padding. So we can flip back, and where we've specified the multi-line class here, let's also give it a padding of 1 rem and save. And it's going to give us a nice padding all the way around the inside. So now when we type in, it's being pushed a little bit off the edges, and I think that looks much better. All right, but we still need to change the color of the text here. So to do that, we actually need to pass another class down to the input component that is building the text field component. So let's go ahead and create our class already, and we'll just call this the input class. Make sure you get the comma after that, and we'll just set the color to FFF so we get the white text. And so now, where we're previously here on the multi-line field, we're using input props to pass disabled underline true. We also, add a comma after that, need to pass the classes prop down to the input. So input props will pass classes, and then set that equal to an object. And then we will specify the input for the input class, and we'll set this to the classes dot input that we created. All right, and we're going to need to put this on the other text fields as well. So the input props, we're passing props down to the underlying input component, and we'll need to set the classes prop, and then we'll set for that, just like we use root here, we'll use the input class to overwrite with classes.input. All right, we can go ahead and then copy that onto the other two here, and go ahead and save. And now we have white text in all of our fields. All right, so we're off to a pretty good start. Last thing that I want to do is let's go ahead and space these guys out so they're not all sitting right on top of each other. So we'll go ahead and we will find the grid item wrapping each text field. Let's give that a classes root classes dot field container. So let's go ahead and put that on all of these guys. But actually, let's just do it on the top 3. On the last one, we'll get to that in a second. We'll just put it on the top 3 because we don't want a border on, or a margin rather, on the bottom of the message field, because there's no other field underneath it, and then that would set the spacing off for our alignment. So let's just go ahead and put a margin bottom on each of the first 3, and that should space these guys out. So let's go ahead, and we've got our field container set on there. So let's create, make sure that's above the global class, the field container, and let's give them a margin bottom of 1 rem. All right, so we can go ahead and save that, flip on over, and nice. So now these are nicely spaced out, but you see how it looks like there's a lot less space here between the message and this last one. So let's actually go ahead and on the grid item wrapping our message text field, give it classes root classes dot, and let's call it multi-line container. Come up, create our multi-lined container class, and let's just give that a margin top of Let's try 1rem and save. Nice. And I think that now looks like it's spaced out much more similarly. If I go ahead and refresh this, nice. I think that looks really good. Let's take a break here and we'll come back in the next video to see how we can use what's called the input adornment component to put some icons on each of these fields so the user knows even more clearly at just a glance what each field is for. Let's go check it out in the next video.